Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 6 of the 2KO podcast. I'm of course OG Albina, joined by my co-host, Mr. King L5. You want to say hi? Hello?
This is me. I'm King L5.
Once again.
Shout out to myself.
And we're joined by AsterJ this week. Do you want to say hi, introduce yourself?
Hey guys, what's up? It's Aster. I've been a Draft League player for 8+ years now, I think. Maybe 9. Not sure. So it's teetering on that. But yeah, I've been around multiple parts of the draft community, between Wi-Fi and Showdown. Yeah, I'm decently known, I would say.
Certified boomer.
Yeah. I've been playing for 9 years, aka too long, a very long time.
Yeah, honestly, time for retirement, man.
Everybody says they're gonna. Ask LOQP. But yeah, if you guys do enjoy this episode of the podcast, be sure to drop a like on it, as well as sub to the channel. Really appreciate it. On our way to 5K. Also, go check out L5 as well as Aster. They're gonna be in the description below, and a little title. You should just be able to click on their name too. So pretty easy stuff. And yeah, with that being said, we're just gonna kind of jump into it. First, we're gonna start off as we usually do with the news, what's going on, and things like that. We recently had DFL, and L5, do you want to remind everybody what DFL is and who won and all that good stuff?
So this is like the Draft Farm League is what it's called. It's basically the second tier team tournament on Smogon for Draft League. And so a bunch of my friends were on the winning team, the Voltekers, and they actually ended with a perfect season. 5-0 in the regular season, and then, swept out the playoffs, of course. No tie breaks at all, which is super impressive if you're unaware. Like, it's very easy to tie.
Yeah, and they do 6, not 8, right? Yeah, they do 6.
Yeah, it's best of 6, so you have to win 4-2 or better. So it's honestly really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, what it says overall, at least in the regular season, I'm not sure. I think they went 21-9. Like it's pretty it's pretty dominating, to be completely honest. I mean, second place even 3-1-1. So they by far and above just kind of smoked everybody, and did pretty well. And Godvergy was on that team, so it was good. And then we also have the Smoke on Circuit Championship beginning right here. Ooh, wrong click. There we go. The Circuit Championship beginning, and basically, is it top 16 that make it to this? So basically, oh yeah, go ahead. Go on.
Okay. So over the course of the year, there's a bunch of qualifier tournaments hosted on Smogon. So there's some Oras, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, and then a bunch of SV stuff as well. And doing well in those tournaments gets you points towards this. This is the playoffs of that. So top 16 points wise make it into this bracket. I don't know if it's single or double elimination, but it's all best of 3. People have 3 different drafts they're using. It's a whole thing. So all the drafting is now done for that, and round 1 is live right now.
Oh, there you go. As of today or whatever. I'm assuming nobody's played or done anything. Okay, yeah. And I do want to, of course, shout out. We just noticed this before. Mr. A12, which again, if you guys are viewers of me and watch a lot of Wi-Fi stuff, you've probably seen A12's name around. He does a lot of Wi-Fi stuff too. He made it top 16, and I think it was summer seasonal or winter season, one of the big seasonal tournaments. He drafted triple Okidogi, Fez, and Monkey Dory in one of those tournaments. Did really well, and he did it again, but he did it fucking 3 times and drafted all of them in round 1, 2, and 3. So I used my personal favorite to win. I would love to see A12 go crazy. I think that's the funniest shit ever. And I'm curious.
Favorite, but
yeah, he's my personal favorite. Yeah, we're rooting. Yeah. Don't know if it's gonna do great when you draft Okidogi round 1 every round and Torrenti goes right after you. But it's fun at the very least, so it'll be a good time. I'm hoping A12 pops off. I haven't looked too in depth. I see he has a Polytoad on one of these teams, so I don't know if they're great beyond the trio there. But hopefully he ends up doing well with a funny team. I think that'd be funny as shit if he played in this super prestigious tournament to get into and smoked with 3 terrible. No, Oki's good. 2 terrible Pokemon. Really, really early on. We also have BBL, which usually I like to talk about, but A12 shit. L5, we're gonna kind of give you the floor. You have a little pond of ducklings in the BBL now.
I do. So there's a few people now that have kind of stuck into the DMs, and they're like, "Hey, can you help me prep?" And this is this guy over here. I don't know how it's laid out on your Discord, but
somewhere.
Owen. Yeah. Owen started He lost the first game, and then he's like, "Please help me, please."
Dude, that's quite
He was
literally
down
an
bad.
accurate dude. I got frozen. I lost the game. I was so mad. I think I waited until the next day, and I said, "Please."
Certified crash out, as the kids say.
Yeah,
So
a
you
little
got
bit.
hacked and immediately ran to
Into
Father
my
Wi-Fi
arms.
for help?
Yep.
Dude, I did, and I had 3 weeks to build for that Vepsis matchup. We grinded the shit out of it. We won. So it worked. It worked
And
for sure.
Since then, only dubs. What can I say?
How many weeks it's been?
It's up to
2.
you now.
2, yeah. Two as of
All right.
recording this that have been
2.
uploaded. Yeah.
All
Right.
right, so
2.
sample size isn't
Okay.
massive. Gotcha.
But-
So that's episode 1, right?
Mhm.
And then, so after that, Vepsis, the guy that Owen smoked,
Uh-huh.
now Vepsis is asking for my help because he had started Owen too. And then so
he
gets
pulled
some help from me.
Joey
He wins.
into me. Yeah. It was a tough start.
He wins his week 3. I'm just saying, I got the golden touch. All my ducklings are doing well.
Dude, but we're gonna check in on the pond every 2 weeks. We
The
step
pond.
into the pond. The pond's record is gonna be publicized. Maybe we'll have a pond record counter on the screen if I'm not lazy
Yeah.
and I forget. But obviously, BBL's going strong. It's been fun. For those of you who watch, I mean, the games are so fast and offensive. It's pretty crazy. Like I think some of these games, what John's game that went up this week, he played D-Ray. And obviously he cut out like some space in between, but the upload was fucking 12 minutes. Like it was like the games are really fast, really offensive. But it's been a nice change of pace. It's been a good time. I've enjoyed it a lot, and I know a lot of the people in the league have kind of enjoyed like this crazy metagame. I don't know if I'd play it multiple times in a year, but it's been a good time for sure. And then we also have NBC recently started up, which Aster, you're playing, and how's the return to Wi-Fi been? I don't know how many weeks you've uploaded up to this point, but how's it going?
It's
2
2
weeks.
now, yeah.
The day we're recording this, actually, spoilers, breaking the fourth wall here, but my week 2 game went up today. So yeah, 1-1 right now. I got timered on my second game. If you haven't gone and checked that out.
I haven't.
I didn't get timer
I
stalled.
didn't know.
I meant to click Swords Dance, and the timer ran out right as I was about to click it, and it clicked Horn Leech instead, and I lost the game because of it.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, a little rough,
Tough, buddy.
but it's just readapting to Wi-Fi again. Like it's been a little while. It's been like 6 months, but the league's running well. There's a lot of really interesting players that I'm getting to know in the league, and I think that are on the come up. Players like KJ, for example, I think is a very strong player, and he did really well in GG Inc. recently as well.
Oh, there you go.
So
That's
that's there's a few names to watch out for in NBC. So if you're interested in Wi-Fi content, click on the link in the description of any NBC video. So if you want to go to my channel and then go check out the rest of the coaches from there, go and do that because there's a lot of interesting games.
That's dope. Yeah, it's cool to see crossover, and that kind of that bridge between Showdown and Wi-Fi. Like obviously, I think the last Wi-Fi league you played was before this one was BBR, and that was two seasons ago. Yeah, so that was like a good like 6-7 months, and then obviously you're playing and you're riding to DPL into DCL. It is a completely different feel. It feels like so much more like, again, fast paced, but it almost feels like you're playing Rambat Blitz compared to like just sitting in your room quietly,
honestly,
clicking your buttons and
have
things like that.
to-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like looking at the layout, especially in my case because I have like live HP bars and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that you're like
adjusting
adjusting.
on the fly for the overlay. So I'm like doing that. I'm trying to calc. I'm like trying to click buttons. I'm like putting down, picking up my controller. So
Well, you're also commentating too, like right? Like
Yeah,
the
that
goal
too.
is to be entertaining and informative. So like, oh, dude, yeah, the things you mess up or miss or just not clicking in time. I watched I won't say which one, but a BBL game that goes up next week. I watched one. It was like halfway through the game. Both players had like 3 mods left. And someone was like, oh shit, I think X player's gonna time out. And I was like, no, they won't. They have like 9 minutes of like personal timer left. They're fine. They ended the game, I think, with 9 seconds or something like that. Like it's yeah, it was really funny. And I wasn't watching from that coach's side. I was like the other person was streaming the game. I'm very excited to see like the panic in their voice towards the end. Because again, one misclick or they timed out and clicked the wrong move one time like you did. I mean, yeah, they super lose the game because it was a super close end game too.
Oftentimes I'm like so focused on everything else, I don't even see the timer go down. And I think through 3 weeks of playing, because I've already played my week 3 by this point, I've never seen how much my timer is at.
Oh yeah,
I still don't know.
It's
where
one of
my
those
timer
things you
was
don't
at
notice
any of
until
those
you're
games.
almost screwed. If you do take a long time, right? Like you don't notice it until this is like 3 minutes remaining, or you look up and you're like, oh shit, like that's just 2 minutes. I gotta click my moves in 10 seconds each turn, or I'm screwed if this goes any longer. So that's obviously up. And then obviously we also had DGBA finals. I'm gonna flash it up on the screen really quick without actually adjusting my. I'll adjust it. We're gonna watch this game later. This will be game of the week, but DGBA is probably the biggest like draft league. So well, no, WPF still exists, right? But like. I think when it comes to like quality of player and like, you know, good players still playing a league, DGB is really like one of the only ones that has like a lot of these top guys still playing. So we're gonna watch Speed Boost finals later on. It is, you said Nerf is spooked. Yeah, Nerf versus AM22. So 2 good players. It'll be a good time. I think that's Terra Bundle, which will also be funny to watch because that usually isn't allowed, obviously.
Terra Bundle against the Terra Chi-Yu.
One of these things is not the same.
Shooters.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that being said, though, we can kind of jump into that the Aster focus portion of the episode. L5, do you want to start off with the questions? Because you wrote this one. I don't know if I know the background or the lore.
So I think we all know, right? Your profile pick is Celebi. Is this your favorite Pokemon?
Yes.
100%.
I love time travel in media. Just generally, like I watch a lot of time travel based stuff in Marvel, for example, anime that has time travel elements to it, and I've always been like super intrigued by the concept of time travel even since I was a kid. So when Gen 2 dropped and Celebi was like the new Mew, it was like super mysterious and hard to get, right? So yeah, the first time I saw it, I was like, that's my favorite Pokemon. So yeah.
You like the Onion Fairy? I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Now, obviously, favorite Mon. Celebi's a weird one because it's like it's especially obviously when we talk about drafts a little bit more like people are always like, no, you get good utility out of it, or like, no, fuck this thing, it's terrible. No. Is that the favorite Mon to use in draft, or is it something else? Does something else stick out when it comes to that? Okay, not a big Celebi guy.
I would never actually draft Celebi. My favorite draft Mon all time, I think, has to be Zapdos.
There you go, good old
multiple times that I've used it, and it's just fantastic every time.
It's LeBron James draft league.
It's just the LeBron.
Yeah. Really he is timeless. He has been doing it for 20 years. I feel like 10 years of draft league is like 20 years of basketball. It's the same thing, basically.
Remember back in the day when people were arguing about who's better between like Tangrowth, Celebi, and Shaman?
What? That was a thing?
You remember that?
No.
That was totally a thing. I'm not making that up.
This is before my time. It sounds like some current gen aura shit to me.
They were always in the same tier.
And Shaman, yes, but never Celebi. I don't think Celebi was ever in the argument.
Well, I remember it. They were all in the same tier. And
I'm a big Shaman guy. I've never even heard people compare Tangrowth and Shaman. I know a lot of people hate Shaman. So
maybe it was just my circle. Maybe it was just my circle at the time. But
I hope you found new friends.
History has shown they're all terrible.
Well, Tangrowth recently, especially, like I never see that guy drafted anymore.
I think Shaman in older gens has places on some teams.
Yeah, for sure. Shaman is the best of them.
Yeah,
dude, I would die for Shaman. That's my guy. You just come in and click Healing Wish. Maybe switch it to something once and then Healing Wish and we're good.
Didn't we see Shaman Sky in a BBL? The only thing it's done is click Healing Wish.
Dude, okay, yeah, it did not come week 1. It's Viz who drafted it. And we all told him before the draft. He drafted like hyper offense to its core, and it's like the most weirdly structured hyper offense ever. It's like just like I have 8 different modes of offense. Pick which one. And the Ubers are Dio Attack and Shaman, and we were all like, I don't know what you're gonna do with this thing other than Healing Wish up the other guys. And he didn't bring it week 1. Week 2, it came in. It was Scarf, it Healing Wished, and it brought back something, and it won him the game. So I mean, like, the only thing it's done is die. So we'll see if the trend continues, but it hasn't looked good in matchups. I'll say that. I've had friends who he played Keegan week 2, and that's how he did it. And the Mon in general did not look great. I think it could do like some fun sub lead shit, but even then,
yeah, I've been in some Ubers leagues where like the Ubers are tiered by points, and Shaman is honestly like always on the low end. Like if it goes from like 21 to 30, let's say for the Ubers,
it's in a 21.
Shaman's always like 22.
Well, I know GG Inc. too. They allowed Shaman in their 8 Mon, which I don't know if I'd go that far. I didn't actually end up playing it, but I don't think any of them did like super well either, to be honest with you. And obviously it's a small sample size and it's just like one tournament.
I think anything that was allowed in GG Inc. was like going crazy. is the thing. Like I don't think any
Mhm.
one mon.
I used Terra Latios. I don't know how other people felt about that, but I got Terra Latios in SV, and I thought that guy was very broken. I think I would play like 3 games with it, so again, small like sample size, but I thought that guy was insane. I think it didn't die. I think it got like 12 kills or something like that. It was really broken mon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely.
I had a Dragapult and it felt okay. Like
that's true. Whew.
There's counterplay. Like.
Oh no. But yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to DCL, Infernarma, you just won, and apparently deciding game in finals. Do you want to take us through the stress of that, or kind of the preparation process? That's probably stressful as hell.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't know, your co-host L5 was my co-captain, and we've co-captained a couple of times now, a few times in leagues, and the first time around didn't go so hot. I went 2-5. The team crumbled near the end of the season. It was not the best experience. I think we also could have done better in the drafting phases. Both players. Which
tournament was that? If you don't mind me asking,
that was DPL.
It was DPL. Okay, it was DPL season.
Yeah.
Okay.
DPL 7, right?
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah. And so that was like, I was kind of demoralized. I did at the moment. I didn't want to be like a captain ever again. I was like, this is just not for me, right? But obviously, I didn't have any experience going into that season of the DPL captaining ever. It was more so to save budget, right? Because like ideally, you want 2 strong players as your captains, like we've seen what Zing and Craig have done, right? 100p and Genius X. Like they're consistently good teams because they have like 2 auto win slots in their captain slots, and like that's ideally what you want to do because you basically just don't have to draft for those players. You don't have to spend an exuberant amount of money, right? Out of your budget. But like not having the experience captaining obviously shafted me the first time around. This time around though, we drafted an incredible team. I'd argue maybe the best team I've ever seen of players. And we did pretty solidly on the drafts. We got help from all over the roster. Picking mons, like the people that were playing their specific tiers had a bigger say than we did in what mons were getting drafted. Like for example, in SV, Sage and Nick really carried in that respect. And and this time around, I did something a little bit differently, right? I think I mocked a total of 3 times. Now that's probably not a good thing, but I mocked my teammates maybe a total of 3 times. The first time around, I was like mocking every matchup. I was focusing on my own. It was so stressful, honestly. And as a result, I wouldn't say that I lashed out, but like it was very like it wasn't the greatest environment to be a part of. And a lot of that was due to my captaining. So it's understandable that like everybody was under a ton of pressure the first time around and like wasn't great. This time around, I was a lot more chill. Like, and I only really like picked up the aggression when things were going really, really badly, or when somebody required it, like somebody really needed the help. So I kind of laid off this time, and it felt so much better. And as a result, of course, we made it to finals, and I had been in one other finals of a team tour up until that point, and I was the deciding game, and same thing happened this time. So yeah,
2 for 2.
We won it. Yep.
Like, some people just have the clutch gene. That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely learned a lot from our season 7 run, and then kind of applied that towards
your dynamic and how you captain together.
In season 8. Did we? I don't think we did.
You
but I drafted you.
Yeah, you drafted me
you in season 8, and we both popped off in that season. That was a lot better. I think we made playoffs, did we? Or
we did. We got knocked out.
We get round 1.
Round 1, yeah.
But even then, it was a lot better. And then, you learn some stuff from there. Always getting better, And then as a duo, we came in for DCL 2. I personally was super motivated for this one, probably more than any other tours in, so far. So I was putting in all the work. I was mocking my teammates. Aster got to just focus on his own games, which, sometimes that's what you need.
Well, it's important to understand your dynamic and what works both for both of you, right? Like, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you guys, like you said, 2 strong captains. If you guys can secure 2 wins most weeks, I mean, you're already that much more far ahead, right?
And like, don't get it twisted. It wasn't like I wasn't helping anybody at all,
Mhm.
but I just wasn't.
No, you were.
mocking. Like
Yeah.
I was
Oh, for
helping
sure.
in like
prep help.
set ideas and like watching mocks and like trying to give feedback to,
Oh yeah, for sure.
to the players. So it's just a different type of help, I guess. So yeah.
No, that's definitely fair. Would you say that like understanding, like, you know, or maybe taking your foot off the gas, that was like the thing you learned most from your past run, or is there anything else that you think you really learned from captaining in multiple team tours when it comes to either in that team tour environment or even just like individual play? Like, what do you think you've learned the most from that?
I think that I have to set an example as a player on the roster.
Mhm.
That's where I shine best. Like my best performances in DPL, in team tours in general, has been when I'm drafted as a player and not as a captain. So obviously, if the best way that I'm motivating my team is by setting an example with wins, then that's what I want to do, right? So I tried to focus and hone in on that. Despite our drafts in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon not being the best, I was like, I really gotta like focus up here and try to get as many wins as possible. And my record at the end of the day wasn't spectacular either. It was just a 5-4, but I got wins when it counted. And I think that anytime any player gets a win on your team, it's motivating. But like, it's
lead by
it's nice
example.
when your captain does it.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, for sure.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I learned. Yeah, I definitely took my foot off the gas in respects to like hammering down on people and like, you know, applying too much pressure on, you know, on the players that we drafted. So yeah, a lot that I took away from the first go around.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So next question: what is your favorite thing about team tours? What keeps you coming back?
I had never done team tours before 2021, I think it was, when I joined season 5 or 2020, season 5 of DPL with Rushmore, and I was like, I don't really know. It's multiple formats, not really my thing. I've always been like a seasonal kind of guy, you know, like 16 player seasons, whatever. And it, I don't know. I played in the first DPL and I was like, wow, that was really awesome. It's just having a personal server where you get to interact with all of these people that you've never seen or talked to before, and then suddenly you're all like striving for the same thing. I think that's what it is. It's just meeting all these new people that I've like never seen before anywhere, and then just suddenly like we're talking like L5, like yourself, Owen, right?
Suddenly
Like,
we're all friends.
we might not have met.
Yeah, the camaraderie
in
aspect of it.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like we've met through different places in the community, and that's always the best thing, in my opinion. The competition's great. Obviously, I love succeeding, and I love, you know, discovering what I'm strongest at, which is clearly Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and you know, finding a
Allegedly,
place there.
yeah.
Yeah, allegedly, yeah. But yeah, at the end of the day, it really comes down to the people that you meet and the bonds that you make through this. So, yeah, that's what I would say is the big thing.
The social aspect, yeah.
Yeah.
I get that for sure.
Sure. It's crazy how many different, and it's not even just like, you know, the different personalities too that, again, you would not mesh with otherwise. You know, you probably wouldn't talk to otherwise. Having that common goal kind of, you know, get you guys going and things like that. So next up, we have a question. These are a little bit more like specific questions specifically towards you that I got in my Discord server. And this is one that I'm going to need some context on because as someone who had to deal with it when we were in TGS, when we had L5 and Blue reenacting this very famous draft league moment. I'm going to need a little bit more context, and I'm sure that's what Burnus kind of leads you into here. He said, "Hey, Aster, it's been a while. Just asking, how did you react and cope with the brother it's time moment?"
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, that's the NPL moment. I believe it's NPL Season 7, where Gypsy and Maddie in semifinals decided to timer stall their game because they didn't like the way that the league was being run, and something had happened previously. Now, if you don't know, the other side of semifinals was me. And I had made finals, and I had a spectacular run that season. I think I went 9-1 in regular and won, obviously, to get to finals. So I was essentially 11-1 on the season, and the NPL at the time was like really stacked. with really strong players. So I was extremely proud of myself at that point. And then like you have the hype of getting up to that point, and then that happens.
Oh my gosh.
And it's insanely deflating because I had literally been building for Gypsy for like 5 weeks. I was so ready for that finals game. I knew that I was making finals, and I'm like, I'm gonna crush him. I had like this insane Meloetta set planned. Anyway, point is, yeah, it was really deflating. And then it's just like, okay, cool. I want a chip. It's my first chip. You know, like I'll take it.
Well, and you don't get to soak in that in the moment. You know, it's like, shit.
It doesn't
you know,
feel
yeah,
the same.
yeah.
You know, for your first championship to be you won by default, it's like, okay, well now what's everybody else gonna think? They're gonna think it's undeserved.
Yeah, there's a big asterisk next to it.
Finals. Yeah, it's like and the worst part is Zazo. Go ahead.
I can't stress this enough. This is like the league at the time. This is the number one. All the top players at the time. This is the thing that matters most, right?
This is before the tour scene was like a really, really big thing, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if DPL 1 had already happened at that point or not, but
no,
it had. No. Yeah, so like, I mean, before the tour scene, it was these big leagues. It was, you know, the big guys got into NPL, you know, and uploaded their games every week and shit like that. So, yeah, and Gypsy and Maddie of all people too, that, you know, like pretty prestigious players, obviously. So you get the opportunity to play them in finals and you win. That's about as big as it gets at the time.
Yeah, and it felt even worse because I played like back-to-back mock finals, like pseudo finals. I think Zazo took Gypsy's team, crushed me, and then Techno, who was in NPL minors, we played because he had won finals. So we had like a pseudo finals match for NPL majors, and I lost that too. And it was just like, okay, at that point I didn't care anymore because I was already titled champion. But it just felt even worse. I was like, would I actually have lost? Maybe. It's like, you know,
well, all that obviously happened. So nobody's like, man, Aster had a crazy run this season. You know, 11-1 up to this point. They're just like, dude, you see what Gypsy and Maddie did? That was crazy.
No, we spoke about it internally in the NPL server, and Maddie was there, and he was like, honestly, just take the championship. I would say give it to Aster because he had an insane run, and like everybody was in full support of that. That's the only reason that it was given to me, because it was kind of like voted on. So that it felt nice in that regard, but again, there's always that what if, right?
Oh, for sure.
It sucks when things end like that. But
and if you're in a competitive space like NPL at the time, right? Like you're there because you want to play, right? You're not there because you want someone to hand it to you. You know, you're there because you want to earn it and win it. So that's how, I didn't know you were the other side of that, and you never really hear about like the other, you know, the people in the background. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That was me. Yeah. So that's it. There's your answer, Bruna.
I'm assuming it's your. I think the webcam tweaked. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, my webcam seems to be lagging at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is.
It's just my phone.
Oh, man. We just talked about this before. Oh, there we go. It's good now.
Yeah.
We can move on to the next question, though.
Okay. So, JCM Shadow wanted to know, you have probably the most unique prep I've ever seen from any top player. So what's the process behind the prep? How do you arrive at these, like, insane teams?
So, Darkrai had said this once, and it really reigns true. It rings true to me that I don't look at a matchup the same way other people do. And L5 and I actually create a really cool dichotomy in this sense. L5 is going to look at the thing that absolutely obliterates you in the like top half of the draft, and he'll be like, build around that, get to that end game. Whereas I start from the bottom. I look at all the low tier stuff.
From the bottom.
Yeah.
Don't you fucking
I look at all the low tier stuff that has the potential to pop off. Stuff like Dunsparce, Dusclops, you know, even stuff other than Eviolite Mons, obviously. But I'm looking at the stuff that my opponent might not be ready for. So that's kind of where I start my thought process. And then I look at the bigger stuff and I'm like, how can I make these things stuff that they're not ready for, right? And sometimes that works. But sometimes I have to rein it in and go with more standard stuff, especially in the team tour setting, because sometimes the more standard stuff does work. But when you see my insane builds, it's because I start looking at a matchup upside down, essentially. Like I look at it from the other end up. So
Honorary Australian right here.
yeah, yeah. Hey, maybe that's why they're so good. Honestly,
Maybe,
they're
maybe.
looking at everything upside down.
True.
But yeah, no, that's how I approach matchups. Is I try to look at the stuff that my opponent might not be ready for first, rather than the stuff that looks really good on paper.
And that's draft, right? It's like finding the most value out of you as you can out of your mons. So trying to squeeze out the most value and kind of like making those low tier mons maybe more of a not the centerpiece, but more of a priority in building is a cool way to make sure you're getting the most out of them. Except like, this is a niche defensive check to one thing in this one matchup or something like that. So it's a cool idea.
Yeah, like and you remember the Moltres and the Alcremie, right?
Yeah, dude, I got smoked by Alcremie. I didn't build for that shit at all, dude. I think I brought yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I didn't see it in testing. I didn't think of it at all. I saw it. Shit, that's not good. They put me in a blender for sure. It is a cool idea. I've never heard of someone saying like they build from the bottom up, because usually it's the exact opposite. I find the guy who wins, and I find a way to make him win more. So
yeah, we have a funny pin in our team servers where it's me doing like modified fire spin calcs because I was trying to defend Comfy once, and then I'm like using Infernape with fire spin as like a comparison, and L5 popped off on me. He's like, "What are you doing?
Relax, man."
So he modified the base power of fire spin on an Infernape against an Uxie at 23%. I was like, this is a silly situation. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Oh my god.
One of the best quotes.
As deep cut as humanly possible as you can get. Yeah, we're in the trenches.
But in general, you do favor the surprise factor, is what you're saying on how you build. Like, that's really important to you.
Because generally, well, it's where I come from too, right? It's the fact that I started watching draft really early on, like early days GBA, right?
Everyone knows the Fire Blast Gyarados.
Exactly. So it's like the stuff, you're always looking for the stuff that your opponent didn't think about. Even Caliente, right? Like Gio's Entei against Shady. Like, it's sets like that like really inspired me to get into draft initially. So, yeah.
Oh, for sure. And again, those surprise things you can pick up, even if they don't win on their own, like getting a surprise KO and picking up a, key defensive piece on your opponent's team, something else just opens up even the big guy at the top that does just win, and makes you just win better, right?
And the best kind of teams, in my opinion, are the ones that have like 2 or 3 like really high end threats that can win a game, and like 2 lower end threats that can win a game. So like your opponent constantly has to deal with like the top end and the bottom end. So
for sure. Yeah. Next up, we have go ahead.
One quick thing, and then we can move on. I remember every single week we're like, "Oh my God, Terra Glacier smokes!" Every single time. That was the first message in all of the prep channels for that team.
Did it ever come?
We have a Terra Amaris, we could just use that.
Did it ever come, and did it ever smoke?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Smoked in Mox. In Mox it did really well, but in the officials it did not do as well.
Unfortunate.
Because it was actually really well placed on the team. Kind of what I just said is that team was very top loaded, and then you got like a really low tier, undervalued mon like last year that can really break holes for some of the other stuff, like an Amaris, for example, that was on that team. So it's like there's some interesting synergy going on there. So
for sure. No, that's dope. Next up, we have Jesse asking, what inspired you to get back into uploading more regularly after skipping out in Gen 8? Almost entirely. You did BBR recently, and you've dabbled in some other places. Obviously, you're doing NBC right now. What was the kind of a deciding factor to make you come back and maybe want to start doing it again?
So I saw a tweet on Twitter that was the GBA was coming back, and I was like, "What? GBA is coming back? Who's running that? Is it Tom?" So I messaged around, and I figured out that it was Jolt and Danza. Running it, and so I messaged Jolt. I was like, "Yo, what can I do to help?" And so I started helping out, and then we had the the startup tour or whatever for the GBA. I think we did commentary on that.
Oh yeah, dude, that was some. I wish there was more. Obviously, side tangent, not to cut you too much. I wish there was more like commentating like big tournaments all like live and like day long tournament. Oh, it was so much fun. That was a good time.
Yeah, it really was. But yeah, we had that, and then I was like, I kind of really like this. I liked like commentating over games. So, and then the GBA actually started up, and I was like, but I'm not in it. I'm not playing in it, but I really like the GBA. So I was like, you know what? Let me try streaming. I'd never streamed before. ever.
Mhm.
So those GBA game reaction streams are my first streams ever.
Mhm.
All time. So I queued that up and I was like, huh, this is fun. And those automatically became uploads, right? The VODs stay on the channel.
Mhm.
And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I do want to play in a Wi-Fi league again. Let me give it a shot. Let me try to figure out how to do this with the Jenning bots and everything, right? And I was like, all right, well, now I know some people from the GBA. And I spoke around and got into the BBR as a result, did the tryout tour or whatever it was, and then got in there, and then TGS started. You put together TGS, and I was like, oh, well, I'll upload that too on the side. And it was a lot. It was a lot to upload leagues at the same time.
You're telling me.
But it was fun. It was fun, and a large part of it was I became proficient with Premiere as well. Like just editing in general, I became really quick at it.
Mhm.
Like even my most well-edited videos at most are going to take me like 5 hours now to complete, and the ones that I kind of just like, don't really cut too much and do very simple stuff will take me like an hour.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, I
Not as
got
daunting
really
of a
good with
task.
Premiere.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got really good with Premiere at the same time as starting to stream, and then streaming led to uploading, and that's kind of what it was. So, and now I'm back to it. I took a little bit of a hiatus after last DPL. I ended up going on like a short road trip mid DPL season when I was uploading, and then when I got back, I was like, no, never mind. we'll not finish this because this is too much. It was too many games in the week, and I was trying to do too much, and it kind of like burned me out. So I was like, okay, let me take a break, and now I'm back to uploading. So
I think that's a big aspect. You talked about even just uploading two, and like one Wi-Fi. It's not even two Wi-Fi, right? I've tried to do two Wi-Fi before, or uploading, two leagues at a time. It's so hard. Yeah, I mean, like considering obviously none of this is any of our jobs, so we have jobs and families and work and shit like that. It's tough. So I think a big thing to make sure you're not like burned out super quick on it is kind of recognizing what you can actually accomplish in a week feasibly. And I'm lucky enough. I spend a little money to do it, but I don't make my thumbnails. I don't edit anything or anything like that. So I click the record button. I play the games. I do that, and I'm like, all right, do this for me. I'll click the button to upload it later, and I'll be good to go. So I think like if you do that, or if you can, become proficient with Premiere and Photoshop, which I was not ever able to do. I'm not very good at it. I'm not super tech savvy. Obviously, as we talked about when we were setting up the the podcast. It's kind of just like understanding that. So I think that's a big aspect. People get really excited and they're like, I want to do all this shit. I want to upload 3 leagues and do a middle of the week, analysis type of blah, blah, blah. And they're like, wow, I hate this after 2 months. So I think that's definitely a big aspect of it.
Especially when you're editing everything yourself. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No way. For sure. But we can move on to Wafflin. L5, do you want to talk about Circuit? We kind of see you said we saw a clear-cut top 5 Mons pretty much across the board, unless your name's A12 with a high pick.
Yeah, so the Circuit, we had our usual top 3, right, with Valiant, Tornty, and Tusk, but also commonly, and by commonly I mean every single pool, they also had Meowscarada and Zarude. So the Grass and Dark types, they're coming up.
Yeah, the Meowscarada one's really weird. Obviously, we've glazed Zarude to the ends of the earth. We don't really need to, go more. I think actually the next line is Zarude glaze. Quite literally, the next line in our script is us hyping up the Mon. But I'm really surprised in the Meowscarada. I don't know if we still have this later, but is that guy really that good? I mean, I'm a big Meow guy. I like it a lot, but top 5? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because I haven't had the same, at least, feelings of it when I've used it. I wouldn't say like I'm fine with this being a top 5 mod in the format and this being like by far the best thing on my team.
I want to hear L5s first, because I have thoughts.
So I think Meowscarada is a really incredible piece to have on a roster, but it can't be your strongest mon.
Yeah.
It can be your fastest mon. It's a great revenge killer, and there's some matchups where you can run like Choice Band and like Breakthrough, but it's not all the time. There's some pretty hard counters that exist to it. So having something that can punish those like bulkier mons that can switch in on Meowscarada is really important. Like we saw in DCL, the team that I was spamming was Meowscarada and Terra Urshifu Rapid. Yeah, like one of the strongest mons that you could even imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having that like really like power behind the Meowscarada utility, speed, it was really a nice duo to have. And obviously, Meowscarada being the round 1 pick, we were able to make it work, and it also pairs with so much. It's really
yeah. It seems like it's like one of those like
anything.
ultimate facilitator mons, right? Like it forces such specific counterplay that you can really kind of tailor your teams to take advantage of that. But what do you think, Aster?
Yeah, it's sort of similar to the last thing that L5 said, which was I think it's extremely flexible. That's why I go so early. Is that it can not do whatever, but it fills a lot of the attacking types that you need later on. And while it's not a great resist to anything necessarily, it can take a hit occasionally, but it's very versatile, I would say, like as a top end offensive mon. And of course we have to highlight the speed, right? The speed is something that's extremely important. Being faster than all the other top first round picks, except for like Darkrai, right? Being faster than Ninja, faster than Val, faster than Torn, and being able to OHKO them with like Play Rough or Triple Axle, or like it's just, that's always been super important. And you look at a mon like Dio Speed that has like no power behind it typically, and it gets drafted round 1 to 2 typically almost everywhere you go as well. And that's because of its speed, because that speed allows you to be extremely flexible. And like L5 said, it's very easy to get a bunch of powerhouses after drafting Meowscarada. That's why I think that it goes so early. Do I think it should go before Zarude? No. Which it did a couple of times, as I can see. But it's still a very, very good mon, so much so that we had 2 of them in DCL. So yeah, I'm a big Meowscarada fan. I think that it used to be very underrated. Now I think it's about where it should be.
Yeah, that's fair. And another thing that's cool about SV in general is like there still is like some really fucking strong monsters are gonna last you in round 2 when you get that round 1 Meow that's gonna facilitate like you said when you drafted with Urshifu, right? Like you get the round 2 Urshifu with Terra. Maybe it's a little underrated in that sense too, but that typical like type of idea to where you can get something really, really strong like Meow can kind of help facilitate and put in a good spot in general. Back to your regularly scheduled Zarude Glaze. We saw that it went absolutely crazy in DCL. It says right here, kill leader by far, even without a 100% pick rate. And as I'm going to switch over while we kind of talk about this a little bit, so that people can see. I believe we have a link for this. Yeah, there we go. 35 next in line in Raging Bolt at 26. So thoughts on Zarude? Obviously, it's great, right? Is it something that it's just a little underpriced at the moment, where it's a little you're able to kind of facilitate it a little bit better, or is it this good? Like is it far and above better than everything else?
I think people see 4x weakness and they get like spooked for some reason. I think that it's not been drafted enough, like in the totality of Scarlet and Violet. But I think people are now realizing that it's when you can change its typing to whatever you want, it just becomes the best mon ever. Just because it has 2 healing options, it has multiple setup options, and like you remember my BBR run, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember my Scrafty?
Yeah.
Typically, mons that can do that can change from a 4x weakness to nothing, and then, or very little weaknesses, and also set up in multiple different ways, are going to be solid. And Zarude is like the pinnacle of that, I feel.
Oh, for sure. What do you think, L5? I mean, we've really drove home how much you like Zarude here, but what are your thoughts in general right now, at least post DCL?
So I think Zarude is like probably the best Terra user, maybe competes with Torn, but I think I'd rather have a Zarude personally than a Torn. Mm-hmm. So, it is like one of those mons that in the team tournaments so far, it's been going pretty late in the draft, so it does have really good partners. That being said, it has looked incredible. So, like, for what it's worth, I think it is definitely like worth 19 points. Apparently, I'm the only one on the tiering council that thinks that, because everyone else besides me voted for it to be 18 points. And now you see it going top 5 consistently. Like, come on, can we make it max price already? Like,
yeah, it definitely deserves it.
For sure. And then really quick before we jump on to whatever's next, there's just I haven't looked at this page at all yet. I won't lie to you. I had a busy day today. There's some really surprising mons that have like a ridiculous amount of kills. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of Sinister praise lately, but this guy's 5th in kills in the tournament. That's pretty sick for the little teapot. That Obama Snow at 7th or tied for 7th with world beaters like Darkrai, Garchomp, Gouging, and Iron Moth. Like there's some pretty interesting things here at the top. This is definitely really interesting. I'll link this down in the description for anybody who wants to kind of look through these stats and things like that. Obviously, we have the other tiers and like Sword and Shield, things of the sort. Scizor being the kill leader is also pretty cool.
It's the year of the grass types, man.
Apparently. Grass, yeah. I mean, Zarude, Meow, Scrataso Sinister. I mean, Sinister's higher than the Meow that we were just hyping up too.
Abomasnow, the Ogres.
Yeah, the Abomasnow is crazy. I know it's a great low-tier Terra guy, but man.
Kill stats like this are obviously always going to favor your win condition mons. So, you know, your Zarudes, even your Sinistras, a lot of people run like double dance or like even Trick Room we saw a lot in DCL. We saw so much Trick Room offensive Sinistra. I was really surprised about that. But yeah, Dark Fire, these stats are going to skew towards those win con Pokemon because that's what people are aiming to sweep with. So when they sweep, they get a lot of kills.
Yeah, for sure. But it just means that it's doing it successfully a lot, which is the main thing, right? Like you wouldn't think something. I mean, I don't know about you guys. Me personally, I wouldn't think, especially not following DCL super closely, that Sinister would put on a clinic like this. Like that's pretty. It's pretty crazy. 22 means it won, you know, as the win condition multiple times, and usually it's gonna kind of come as that win condition, but it found a lot of success doing so, which is pretty dope. So yeah.
Yeah, Sinistra's like I want to say one of the best Calm Mind. Terramon.
And like also those abilities plus Terra with like, you know, like heat proof with that, like it just kind of like adds another layer of versatility when it comes to like defensive typings and things like that you can kind of you know,
you can look at something like Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt has no recovery.
Oh, I love that guy. Yeah.
So like there's definitely a lot that Sinistra can do that a lot of the other Calm Mind setup sweepers can't do. So it's you get a good pilot behind it and the right set, and it's gonna do work. And I think Sean was the one racking up the most kills with it, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
This season in DCL, so like obviously a very good pilot. So there you go.
Oh, for sure. On to the next, we have something that we've kind of talked about a little bit on the podcast before, but not like super in depth. I actually have a video coming out. I think maybe I'm hoping Sunny finishes in time. I'm thinking maybe this Friday. But a lot of it was kind of spurred from conversation on this podcast or conversations we've had outside of this. And it's kind of the big come up of Latias in Scarlet and Violet and how it's kind of been considered to be better than Latios in a lot of instances. And that's not just in the sense of like, Latias is allowed to Terra in a lot of places, and Latios never is, so Latias is better. It's even just regular Latias against regular Latios. People are really kind of starting to really prefer Latias, which has never been the case. Do you have any explanations on why you guys think that is the case? I mean, I have some as well, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
I mean, quick caveat, Latios is still generally more expensive than Latias on the draft boards.
But I mean, that could also be better as in more value and people are drafting it more. Not like, yeah,
people are drafting Latios like round 4, round 3 pretty often. Whereas Latios, you're getting that round 8 because nobody's drafting Latios these days.
Yeah. I think one of the big things is that generally from your psychic type, just the way the teams are constructed, especially in like 8mon, is that you want your psychic type to be more of a resist than a bomb, right? You don't want it to be a cannon. You want it to have utility. You look at stuff like Mesprit and Yuxi generally do really well. Latias having support options like screens, like Healing Wish, for example, like those are very important key pieces that you don't find on every mon, and Latios doesn't really have that. So you're generally not going to see. This is why like Monkey Dory doesn't work. There's more than just that, obviously, but generally offensive psychic types, unless you're looking at like the very upper echelon like Deoxys, typically aren't drafted because they don't have as high value as psychic types that can actually take a hit and do something for the rest of the team. So that's why I think that Latias is better right now. It just has more utility in more like how can I put this? In less offensive metagames, I think that Latios thrives because you want more bombs. But in a more offensive metagame, having that like key support option is extremely important. So yeah, that's where I think that Latios excels.
Yeah, I found this gen to be by far the best healing wish generation. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
There's always something that's super valuable that you want a second life at. Whether it's like gouging fire, whether it's a Terapagos, whether it's Inner Shifu, you know, literally anything. Yeah, having two Zarudes, the only thing possibly better than one. But anyways, so I found that Latios this gen can do Latios's job, but Latios cannot do Latios's job.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the kind of thing for me. Like Latios, I've used Scarf a lot. I know Bacon used Specs. That's the team that I built for him in finals, and Specs Latios has been great. So those more offensive stats, they can still do it. But most of the time, you are going to be wanting those like bulky Calm Mind, those Screens Healing Wish, those Scarf Healing Wish, something like that. And it's just more valuable than Latios.
Oh, for sure. I think because I think it's Latios gets Memento, Latios gets Healing Wish. I think the difference between those two moves is like astronomical. Again, especially in this generation where like you have to a lot of time dedicate a lot of resources to these Terra-Zarude type guys, and then we just get it again. You're like, oh shit. Or you have to play the entire game afterwards. Like, I can't give Latias the Healing Wish turn, or I'm gonna lose the game to the guy who was broken before. It's interesting. And again, if we're just looking at these stats, Latias, again, even as just a support piece, right? It racked up 14 kills throughout the tournament. So it's the same as the likes of Great Tusk and Cinderace. So it still shines offensively. And those matchups where Latios would be good, Latios is good. And then I don't even think actually I see a Latios with a kill in this tournament in SV, whereas in Sword and Shield and Usum. What was that?
I don't think it was drafted in SV.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, that would make sense, right? So it's not on the kill leaders at all in general, and then it's tied for 4th in Sword and Shield. Which is obviously pretty upper echelon. Also, Moltres all the way up there, but tied for 4th there, and pretty high up on the list too in Usum, right? And those are generations where I know I drafted a ton of Latios in Sword and Shield last gen. Like, absolutely loved it, and then I used it this gen, and it also felt just a little bit more lacking. I wasn't a big fan of it when I used it without Terra, obviously. Now, was Latios Terra banned in DCL? I know it was allowed in DPL.
I believe it is terrible.
It was banned.
It was banned. Okay, I thought it was, but and I think like the trend kind of got towards that because it was also, again, we'll talk about defensive utility with that thing stats. You know, again, we could change our typing and Calm Mind up with it or use it how we want to, or even offensively, it was pretty strong. So yeah, it's cool to see though, like how just slight changes in a metagame can completely flip things, because you'd think it would just be maybe Latios is worse, but Latios sinks even lower. Instead, it like leapfrogged it completely in viability, which is pretty darn cool. So
same thing with like Moltres and Zapdos, right?
Yeah,
really depends on the metagame. Moltres is way better than Zapdos right now. Like,
and so you don't
for the price, right?
Yeah,
for the price.
For the price, like how much you're spending.
Because Zapdos still has a lot of utility, but like when you think about the things
but Moltres
that Moltres can
definitely
check.
It's definitely a bigger part of the metagame, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you can't like throw a lot of these mons down to, you know, the price point that maybe these mons that are getting more value are, because then obviously you're getting them plus some crazy pairings, and maybe they'll feel a little bit better when they're, you know, on some unbalanced teams. But yeah, I think it was like, I think I said in the video, I think you told me it was like Latios was like 14, Latios was like 12, 11. So that's great value that you're getting out of that thing at that price.
Latios in the champion or the circuit championships, because there was a little bit of a tiering update. Latios did get moved up 1 point to 13, so now it's only 1 behind Latios, and I find it's probably going to be the same price when it comes to DC or DPL. I think it's probably going to be a change we're making.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely
It'll be interesting.
Really, really
same
well.
Price. Which one you choosing?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where like it's tough. And again, I feel like you'd see a lot of people still lean Latios just based on a lot of these team comps and structures that we're seeing. Just that.
I would.
Yeah, just that team structure. And again, I don't know if that means dropping Latios or upping Latios, but it's something interesting to think about for
Definitely
sure.
dropping.
Next up, we have what I was most excited for in the Turtonator game. Elf, do you want to explain this so we can go ahead and run our Turtonator games? Now, keep in mind, too, for this, I'm going to preface it before we even start. I want you guys to do your best to play the game, participate, drop your sets in the comments below. Yeah, play along in the comments below. Drop them below. L5 will also be doing a stream sometime next week. He said Monday, Tuesday, something like that, where he will be doing this with all of you that want to show up and do it. And I think it's a really fun thought experiment. It's not necessarily like draft in its purest form, but it's like a fun little thought experiment and very draft adjacent. It was a good time. I spent hours today trying to figure out a way to solve this, and I didn't find it. As you'll see.
Spent about a whole 10 minutes on it. Owen lost his whole day on this.
I know.
10 minutes.
I still didn't figure it out.
Here's the idea, right? Real old heads will know this is not the first time I've done this. I used to do this all the time way back in the day. I'd be like, hey guys, brand new server I just joined. Let's play the Turtonator game. Like, that was my whole thing. And people get super into it. But here's the concept, right? I'm the Turtonator guy. I think Turtonator is the best Pokemon in the world, and I can prove it. So it will 1v1 anything you throw at me. So what you have to do is find a set that beats any Turtonator set. So basically, me as Turtonator, I know your set, I know your EVs, I know your moves, I know what you're going to click turn 1, and I have to build a Turtonator that beats that. So it's a fun like thought experiment of like counter teaming and like making a counter team set, which is something that a lot of draft people are pretty natural at. You know, we've spent how many years doing this? It's always trying to counter team the other opponent. So this is kind of an extension of that. There's a bunch of rules here. It's a lot of like in theory stuff. So like we assume the moves hit. We assume the multi-hit moves are 3 times. You know, kind of like what the Showdown Calc assumes.
And this will be linked. This will be linked in the description too if you need when you're pulling this up. Yeah.
But long story short, you need to find something that is more likely to beat Turtonator than not beat it. That's like the bare minimum. And so far, a few people have won the game back in Gen 7. However, in Gen 8, Turtonator got some new tools that now beat those sets that used to beat Turtonator. So,
and keep in mind too, the only two people that have beaten it are top level draft players too, right? Like really good players that really thought this out.
People were, I believe, Theodore Manny and Zern. So if you know those two players, you know they're excellent.
Theo can figure out anything. So
but now we have new solutions. So we're gonna have to find a new champion. I'm gonna do a stream, like we said, either Monday or Tuesday next week. So that'll be fun. Hope to see you there. But we have 2 submissions, one from Aster, one from Owen. And I have solved them, and I'm going to show it off to you right now. But go ahead and explain your sets, the thought process behind it.
I mean, it was hard, right? So what I ended up coming up with, and again, I tried a bunch of different ones, but what I ended up landing on was Feeny. Now, spread-wise, I guess I can kind of explain the thought process first. Where Mirror Herb, it just kind of covers any Shell Smash shenanigans. Obviously, Turret gets Shell Smash and kind of blow up through. So you kind of punish that. You can Moonblast or Hydro Pump through. The reason we're Moonblast and Hydro Pump is because I was worried about like PP stall and getting PP stalled out of Hydro Pumps if I was mono Hydro Pump. So it has both options there. Taunt stops any non-Mental Herb set from doing any kind of shenanigans. Again, with any kind of setup moves or any kind of status moves, things like that. Calm Mind lets me boost up to 2-hit KO it, basically. EVs wise, I covered, I think, +2 boom on the physical side, non-adamant. But if it's not like Spadef, it really struggles with like taking on hits in general. And then I think I covered like Power Herb Solar Beam at +2 as well, in case things got out of hand on the Spadef side. But with Taunt, it can't be Power Herb plus Shell Smash and like actually do anything. So it just really kind of covered all bases in that regard. I outspeed Timid Turtonator too, so it's not like I'm worried about it smashing past me or being faster than me in any way, shape, and form. And that was kind of like the general idea. Now, obviously, we have to keep in mind that L5 knows the first move that we're clicking, right? So this is another interesting part of it in the sense that I was like, okay, I always taunt turn 1 and then I can Calm Mind through. But he brought up the idea that Turtonator can just be level 1 and be like Fear Turtonator, which I didn't even know it could fucking do. I think I didn't put 2 and 2 together that it's not a fully evolved mod.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, the thing about that is, like, if I show up at level 1, obviously you're not going to have to taunt that. You can just attack.
Yeah, but now I know
the idea
I
that if
can't
you have
taunt.
to taunt turn 1,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's not the whole thing. Like, any Turtonator can do what a level 1 Turtonator can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
you
how
have to position it. Mm-hmm.
But
And I'm sure we'll
if you're
see that.
taunting, I don't need to click a status move. You know what I mean? First off, I don't need to do that at all. So the taunt is basically a dead turn for you. I don't even have to run Mental Orb. I'm not clicking a status move. But with that knowledge, if I get a free turn, it's basically over. There's like so many ways I can win. So he came to the conclusion, it can't be taunt turn 1. So now you come up with a different turn 1, which is Moonblast, right?
Which is Moonblast, yeah. It just covers more variants of what you can do in your play, and I thought we had an answer, but you were very confident. In fact, he told me, he didn't make fun of Aster's set, he made fun of my set, though. He said, I didn't need an item for this, and I didn't need half of my EVs to beat this set, and I was pissed.
I only needed 196. That's all I needed.
To be fair, this started in Gen 7, and Feeney's a Gen 7 monster.
Yeah,
so it's not like he hasn't had experience doing this.
I was hoping the Mirror Herb would be enough, and I do think that that's like that's going to throw a wrench in a lot of the plans, but it seems like it just means you can't be smashed as much because people are going to kind of throw on Mirror Earth, but it also locks them into a Mirror Herb in a lot of instances, right? So
yeah, and they can't be like Sash or anything like that.
Oh, for sure.
Mirror Herb is definitely a very important item, so much so that my set is also Mirror Herb, except mine's a Scream Tail. Now, I made this on the fly because I was looking at like bulky stuff that didn't take super effective damage from Turtonator, bulky on both sides, and I landed initially on Cress, and then I ended up on Scream Tail because Cress is weak to payback, and it can't actually take 3 paybacks, unfortunately. So I landed on Scream Tail, and I went with a Calm Mind Stored Power Rest Talk set, once again with Mirror Herb. Now I did see that Turtonator also gets Iron Tail, it gets stuff like Uproar, it gets Taunt, so depending on how the turns play out, I could end up getting messed up by a stray taunt and not being able to rest when I'm already too low, etc. So there's definitely options there, but I felt like my set was somewhat resilient and it was close. Like I said, I only spent about 10 minutes on this. I didn't spend very long.
Yeah, I spent so long. I went through like 5 mods. I went through like 5 mods, and I was deep in the builder, man. I didn't have shit to do today. I was so deep in the builder, dude. I was in call with people, and we were like, wait, I was in call with Keegan Q. was like, I got the perfect Dark Talon on. Like, this is gonna smoke him on the stream. Like, he was ready.
No, Owen was going through it today.
Oh, I was. So we're gonna run it, much to my dismay, because he's again very confident that he's gonna smoke me. I could see L5 like giddy that he's about to smoke both of us with his Turtonators. We'll go ahead and do mine first, and then we'll have Aster do his. What are you on as right now? Just King L5.
Just King L5, yeah.
All right, challenge. We're gonna go. Oh, I should probably like give this actual. Oh, it's in deck draft. Okay, cool. Dex draft. All right.
Run to my DM real quick so that I can watch your game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Did you say? Oh, you did L5. Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's in L5.
Okay, we have both of them. Okay, so I'll do my. What we'll do is you'll just play through me, Aster. Just tell me what you want me to click when it's your turn. We'll do mine first. So we leave Feeney.
Still hasn't responded.
Man.
So we're going Feeney. This is my set against Feeney. So for those of you at home, this is going to be Binding Band with Fire Spin, which I will click turn 1.
Okay, so I always Moonblast. We have to Moonblast. We set that parameter beforehand. However, I can play any way I want afterwards. So we are going to Moonblast. We see it takes 40 right here in this instance. It takes a little bit of damage. Dude, now I want to pull up the calc. Hold on, I'm pulling it up.
So Hydro Pump versus my set does 49.7 max.
49.7. So this incentivizes me, in my mind, because I see this thing, it incentivizes me to Calm Mind. I am going to go ahead and Calm Mind. We see a sub.
This gives me a free sub.
Okay.
From here, I'm just going to Moonblast because I know it breaks sub. I mean, we could Hydro Pump. It doesn't make a difference. We
and
just
I'm
don't want
going
to play
to Endeavor here. And you see, I'm actually no HP IVs. So Endeavor brings you as low as possible. And now it looks kind of scary, right? I could die next turn, but I have Protect.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's and then we unfortunately die.
Yeah.
So next up we have AsterJ Screen Tail. I'm just gonna click Sleep Talk first, so you can just get the free switch in. I don't think it matters PP wise.
Sure.
From what you told me, I don't think this is gonna matter PP wise. You know,
No,
it could theoretically, but it's not.
So
All right, do you want to talk through how you're gonna beat AsterJ Scream Tail?
Yeah, there's a few ways I can beat this Scream Tail. Number one, which is like the immediate thought, is Choice Banded Heavy Slam. It just 2-hit KOs like with very minimal investment. But I decided to go with something a little bit cooler, which you're gonna see here.
Aster, what was your line? It was Calm Mind. Okay. So we're gonna Calm Mind.
Yep.
So I'm actually going to Taunt first. So you can't set up more than one time, which being stored power, you know, you're not actually too powerful right now.
Yep.
And I'm actually almost max Spadef with leftovers, so Toxic here. And I believe I have one more turn of Taunt after this, so I'm going to Heavy Slam one time. This is EV to always 3-hit KO, even if I mess up my Taunt turns, you know? But here, I can just go for an Uproar to prevent the rest next turn, because Taunt should wear off next turn. I mean, Heavy Slam will also kill with toxic damage, but this is way cooler.
Yep.
Now you can't rest. As you can see, it failed.
Yeah. And then we're gonna go down to another Uproar plus toxic.
I didn't see Heavy Slam actually when I was running through its moves.
I didn't either, to be honest. I just knew Iron Tail, which also took KOs with minimal investment, so it's the same thing.
Yeah. So we're employing all of you, everybody down in the comments. Go ahead, try and beat King of Five's omniscient Turtonator. Again, I spent a long time. I don't think I'm that dumb, right? It's really hard. This thing's bag is immense. Make sure you're obviously following the rules. Again, the rules are going to be linked down there. Obviously, you know, we're assuming no cheese happens and there is bans and rules and parameters, but it's not going to be easy. And obviously, you can go check out the stream when L5 does decide to do that. So,
the announcement for that stream, the specific time, will be in my Discord whenever I figure that out.
And I'll link that down in the description below too. So
yeah,
big. Yeah, so unfortunately, we stood no chance.
That was awful.
Yeah, this is super fun for me to be honest. I really.
I'm sure when you get to play God Turtonator, you know.
Yep. I get the broken side.
Dude, true.
And by the way, Turtonator in DCL was 4 points in Sword and Shield, and it did not get drafted. So.
I feel like that makes sense because most Turtonators don't know what your opponent's clicking and they're not fighting 1v1s. So I feel like when we do that, maybe we don't. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and move on to just general Discord questions that we got in the server.
Yeah.
First up, we had Cly's here, and he asked what is the most underrated role to fill, most overrated? In part asking because Aster has a team with like 1 billion speed and fast encore and Wi-Fi. So we were just wondering kind of the ideas and thought process of like, is there like something like a very niche role that you guys think is like, you know, most teams should have this or should strive to get it if they can?
Yeah, I have an answer to that.
I'll let you go first.
My answer is an emergency button.
That's okay.
As far as roles go, it's one that's like often an afterthought. And people are like, oh, okay, cool, I have one, but they're not like looking for one. And what I mean by emergency button, and this has been a thing since Gen 6 draft, is having something that is like immune to hazards, can hold a sash, has increased priority, something like E-Speed from D-Knight with multi-scale up. Terapagos is an automatic emergency button. That's part of what makes it so good, is that it can literally revenge anything that's at low health. It doesn't care, unless they're like at +6 in the stat, right? And then you have your like Alakazams, your Mirror Herb Howluchas or Drift Blims, you know, stuff like that. So much so that like we even saw Bastiodon have success out of nowhere, like as a Terramon, because it can come in, be immune to hazards with heavy duty boots, have it sturdy intact, and because it has like Metal Burst, Foul Play, and like and Body Press, and like a bunch of other options, counter exactly. It just like it can check exactly what you need it to in a matchup if like you're struggling against one specific thing, and that's what an emergency button is for. So having something like that, I think is extremely underrated, and people don't look for it enough. So.
Yeah, and emergency buttons come in many forms, right? You have like your Prankster Encores, your Prankster T-Waves, stuff like that. You have your Unawares, you have obviously the Terapagos, D-Knight kind of thing.
Boots sturdy too.
For the past year, I think I've used drafts that always have an emergency button, and I found it to be really important as well.
Yeah.
So I can definitely get behind that.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And even just more broadly, I at least in Gen 9, I've always been a really big fan of strong priority too. In general, just in a more offensive metagame, like having something that not just like this mon gets fake out, you know, if I need it, like strong priority, like strong suckers and strong E speeds and things like that. Like I love D Knight in Gen 9, even obviously without it being able to tear since past the first month. It's been really, really strong because in such an offensive meta, I think having that like part of the emergency button, but also just like really restrictive in the builder for your opponent when they know that strong priority move is always lurking in the back for, you know, X win con or whatever's going on. So yeah, I think that's definitely and it kind of plays into that. It's like a smaller faction of, you know, that emergency button kind of idea. Next up we have Fishbrat asking, how do you guys plan going into a draft compared to having to shift on the fly due to a combination of snipes? How do we write this? Oh my god, hold on, I have to stare at my phone, this is hard to read. How do you guys plan going into a draft?
Going on.
Yeah, how do you guys draft or plan going into a draft compared to having to shift on the fly due to the combination of snipes, and how many points you have left to make sure that your team is competitive and what you wanted to have in the end based on like what you had when you started? So like you're going into a draft, you're planning out, I want this, this, and this, or like say after round 1, 2, whatever, you start planning, then bad shit happens. How do you adjust and, you know, kind of make it still similar to your original vision? And I'm interested what you guys think on this, because I've talked about L5 before. Drafting is by far my weakest suit. So I actually don't have much of an answer on this. It's something I really, really struggle with, especially when things don't go right in the planning phases. So what's your guys' main approach to that in drafting and drafting in general?
I want to take this one first.
Yeah, so we've drafted together for multiple team tournaments, and you know, team tournaments are where everyone's trying their hardest to get the strongest thing. Did my face cam die? Oh, there it's back. All right, dude, my roommate's downloading too much content at the moment. But anyways, so where was I going with that? So we've drafted a lot together. One thing that I like to do is not plan too far ahead, right? I want to have that like top 4 or so with like really strong synergy, and then we'll figure out the rest when we get there. I don't like planning out a full 8 all the time, because if something gets sniped, then all of a sudden it doesn't work sometimes. So what I like to do is have like, if I can, I go for combinations that are more open-ended, more things work with them, where like you can kind of do anything with like Meowscarada Terapagos, for example. And then you can do anything with like Garchomp Zarude. Like those are 2 examples of like I think are super open-ended. You can literally do anything. That's the stuff that I like to draft early rounds. And then in the mid rounds, I like to support that top 2 or top 3 sometimes. And then like I usually like to have at least 2 versions that I like before I commit to a pick in those mid rounds. Like, finish the puzzle, right? Get your full 8, but it can't be the only 8 that you have. You need a backup that is also good. And that's something that maybe I'm a little bit picky about. You know, some people are like, oh, this 8 looks good, let's just go for it. I like to think a little bit further ahead. You know, I don't want to be dead to 1 snipe, you know? Mm-hmm. If we get sniped 3 times back to back, what are you gonna do, right?
Especially if you
want to be
start
prepared as you can.
Yeah, especially if you start drafting and like you're like, okay, I really need this mon because it fills these 3 things that I need, and then it goes and you're like, oh shit, like I've drafted around, you know, this had to, you know, do that job for me. It's gone now, and I don't know what's gonna do that job. So that's definitely fair. What about you, Aster?
You always have drafts where you end up getting sniped more than others. And of course, L5 approached this from the point of view of team tours, where you're only drafting 8 mons. I think it's a little bit different for when you're in regular leagues. There's more mons being drafted every round generally. Like you can go anywhere from like 10 to 16, whatever. So a lot more can happen. It's much easier to plan an 8-mon draft than a 16-mon draft. I will say that. The main things I look for are top-end speed within my first 3 picks. I want something faster than the field, or as fast as the field. I want something that I know is going to be, this is my revenge kill button, if necessary. Something like Meowscarada, like what we mentioned earlier, something like Iron Valiant. So that's one thing that I'm really looking for early, as well as like the most important roles generally. within those top 3 to 4 picks. Stuff like hazards, like you look at your Garchomps, Terapagos has rocks, stuff like that, right? Your Ting-Lus, etc. And then from there, once I have those and I have like some semblance of an offense built, I start looking to fill out, like I have a checklist in my head of important roles. Like I need to check Enamorus and Iron Valiant if they're not on my team. I need to have a grounded poison, otherwise I'm going to lose to T-Spikes because everything on my team is grounded. If my team isn't grounded, then I'm not looking as hard for maybe a grounded poison. Maybe I'm looking for just the best hazard removal option in the format, right? Like the best spinner or the best defogger. So that's the way I approach round to round, and you're just trying to create synergy with that. And usually per round, I'm looking at like 3 mons that can fit my team, and that's how I'll go through it. And I don't like dwell on those mons specifically because I know there's still like 1 or 2 backups. But I'm like, okay, if I have these 3 mons, there's a good chance they're not going to get sniped. And of course, if you're used to drafting, if you're somebody who's done many drafts, you know that you can look at the board and look at, like, let's say you're closer to the back wheel and you see that all the teams after you have a specific role that you're looking to draft. You can fast forward in your drafting process to the next pick, right? Now you want, let's say, your water or your defogger or whatever, and everybody else has a grounded poison. You're not going to pick a poison because there's a very low likelihood that one of your 2 to 3 poisons that you're looking at is going to get taken because almost everybody on that side of the draft already has a poison. So that's like the way you want to kind of structure your drafting process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like playing the draft pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that I think is super important in SV is a great ground type. That's something that I really tend to prioritize when possible. Like your Ting-Lus, your Garchomps, your like Lando T is like probably the worst ground type I would consider like top tier. Just something like that. I think all of them are great mons to have on your team. They do so much for you. But also what you can do
like
is
the
like,
lowest I'll go. Like after Donphan, it just falls off.
Yeah, I don't consider Donphan as part of the group, honestly. I'm starting to warm up to Gliscor a bit.
I mean,
but yeah,
when you have to, when it's like your like last possible option, yeah, I'll take it. And again, looking at 16 mon drafts, right? Like if there's 15 other rounds taken, if you end up with Donphan, that's not too bad. You have like, okay, maybe like the 9th best. So yeah,
you don't feel as pressed to draft the Donphan in the 8-mon draft, yeah, for sure. It's especially if you're getting it, or if you're getting your round early.
I like the mons that are like best in class or like 2nd or 3rd best in class. It's really something that I can build around. Like if we get the best breaker in class, you know, on the draft board, we get the best breaker, I'm building around that. I'm getting Volt Turn, I'm getting teleport something, you know, anything like that. Like any ways to get the breaker in, I'm thinking immediately, all right, awesome. If we get like Tapu Koko and Sun and Moon, that's the best pivot in the game. So I'm going to start getting a bunch of hard-hitting guys that take advantage of the mons that come in on Koko. That's immediately what I'm thinking. Like if I have something that's the best on the draft board at any given role, I'm building around that. I'm making sure that can shine. So we see that with like the Koko Zardex Kartana thing, which is a super common Sun and Moon core.
Yeah,
Koko's the best pivot in class. So you're pairing it with Zardex, a great breaker and a great win con, and then Kartana, another great breaker, a great scarfer, a great win con. But like, it's just good synergy with that top pick, and I really enjoy building around those like round 1 picks.
Sure. Highlight their strengths.
Yeah, exactly.
So, moving on, that's the last question of the day question we have for the podcast. We can kind of jump into our last 2 little segments. It's going to be, first up, we're going to look at that DGBA finals game that we were talking about before. We have Nerf versus AM22. If you guys want to pull it up too, I'm just going to watch the game at normal speed and I'll let you guys know when I press play, just so we can all kind of be synced up when we're watching it. I know we said before that is a Terra Iron bundle, and this is free Terra preview, so it's not like it's like Wi-Fi rules where it's locked or anything. That is a bundle that can Terra into anything. On top of other huge sets like Iron Hands, which I'm a huge Iron Hands guy. For those of you who obviously have been around the channels for a while, I love that guy. I'm a big Klefki guy. Love me some Dio Speed. Love me some D-Knight. I mean, Nerf's team looks really, really fucking fun. Like there's some guys on this team. Like there's some really even Klefki. Like I'm a big Klefki guy. And then we have AM's team, whose team also looks pretty solid. I wonder if that's also like a Terra Rev Room. We see a Terra Chiyu on the other side, Zapdos, Lycanroc, Grimmsnarl, and Swampert. So actually a really interesting looking build. This isn't I haven't seen a similar build at the very least. But yeah, that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and just press play. If you guys want me to pause it all for any point, just let me know. But I'm pressing play now. So Terra types, sorry, I'm gonna pause again. I lied because I want to look at the Terra types and I will totally miss it otherwise. On AM's side, it looks like he just, oh, that makes it so difficult. I think he just gave a bunch of his guys Terra types. So where's the Chiyu? Looks like Chiyu's Terra Fairy. Yeah. So if he has another low tier guy, we'll figure it out. we have
pretty spammable here.
Yeah, we have no idea. And then Terra Ground from the Iron Bundle. So kind of that Mamoswine Stab combination, which does look strong. It also makes it resist a Cell Rock, which is really, really nice. And not being revenged. We already see, and also nice into the Zapdos. We're going to Terra Ground immediately. Ice Beam into the Yachi, as Hurricane is going to do 96 to it. As you see, switch out into Grimmsnarl, yet another Ice Beam. Still going to do a chunk. Pretty spit F Grimmsnarl, it looks like. Parting Shot on a clear Amulet, and he's going to get off another Ice Beam. And is just basically going to, he's going to take this thing down. Super, super sick tech from Nerf right there. Very, very cool. We're going to see Zapdos come back out. Iron Hands pivots out. Most likely some kind of AV set. It's going to take absolutely nothing from that hit. Hurricane's going to pop as we see a Brick Break. Get rid of the screen, so even more text popping from Nerf. Yeah, I mean, very, very prepared for this game. We see a Swords Dance's next turn as it takes very little from that Hurricane. Heat Wave is not going to connect, and it's going to knock out the Zapdos. I mean, this thing's going... Nerf's playing incredibly, incredibly well. We see an Endure, which is going to go down, bring this thing down to Custab. So this is just going to get another kill here, right? Like, this just gets another kill. Brick Break, or not at least a lot of damage. Yeah, I didn't know if it was... I guess if it's mono Brick Break, fighting sound-wise, but, I mean... incredible value out of the hands. We get a Terra Blast off. We kill the Rev Room, and I mean we're so far ahead right at this point. Lycanroc's gonna come out. We still have a decent response in Klefki. Nice aggressive close combat. Could potentially be Scarf. Yeah, we don't see Life Orb, so just something to keep in mind. Klefki's gonna come out and get up a spike here on the Chiyu switch. Light screen goes up. Flamethrower is going to kill that guy through the light screen. Very easy. D-Knight's going to come out. We see a Terra Fairy and a Will-O-Wisp from a non-choice Chiyu. Yeah, very, very nice bring. Yeah, very, very nice bring. Probably some kind of boot set or something like that. Burns the D-Knight. Out comes Swampert. E-Speed, not doing the most in the world. Still a decent chunk, 23. Definitely nice. We're going to just go ahead and E-Speed again. We're going to see Rocks go up, which is going to be really nice and picking off that bundle, on the switch in. Scale Shot's going to pop. It is going to go ahead and get all 5, though, and pick off this Swampert. So we're up at +2 speed, allowing us to outpace any kind of Scarf Lycanroc if it is that. E-Speed comes out. 35. Terra Blast takes it out. Out comes the Dio Speed. Really, really tough position for him. I don't know if he has much he can do in this spot. Psycho Boost is going to kill this Chiyu. Out comes the Lycanroc. Is this going to be some kind of choice set? It is Choice Scarf Crunch. But at this point, I mean, Dolphin has it absolutely locked up. Alive, so, I mean, really fun game. Really, really good prep on the Nerf side. A lot of cool techs ended up popping off really, really well. Like the Clear Amulet bundle. I mean, that's something that shows that you're super prepared for a game like this in the sense of you've probably seen that sequence a billion times of that thing coming in.
EV'd to live that cane as well.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah, you don't leave that in otherwise. Especially on like a lead set or something like that. In case it is like random Scarf. So. Yeah, that was a really fun game. Really cool one. AM had some cool stuff too, but yeah. Nerf.
We saw the Yachi Zapdos got its thing versus bundle. Like that's what he wanted. Right? You want to take that Ice Beam, attack back, but the bundle had EVs to live. Ice Beam into Yachi, then forces it out the next turn, and then the Clear Amulet that tech hits, and you go into Iron Hands. It's max special defense, so it kind of looks like it's AV, like Owen was saying. This looks like it might be AV hands, but then it pulls out the Sword Stance, and then all of a sudden, AM22 has to sack a Pokemon, and then even after that, gets the Custap off as well. So a lot of techs are hitting here.
Yeah, and we get a ton of damage, and I believe that was also Balloon on the Rev Room, right?
Yeah, Balloon on Rev Room.
Yeah, I'm gonna go forward, just double check. Which again, that also helps in your bundle revenging that, right? That gives you that revenge afterwards, which is really, really nice. Yeah. So
why you don't bring 2 parting shot mons. You don't draft 2 parting shot mons because you can get clear.
Incentivizing the clear amulets and things like that.
Yeah.
Very much so. So yeah, cool. And D Knight popping off even while burned, getting a couple. Like it was good stuff. Yeah, really fun game. Now onto Waffler of the Week, and I'm gonna let you explain this one a little bit because I kind of know the background on this. Yeah, so you get to be the one that explains this. Oh, I have to go up to the actual
post.
Yeah, what was the username that we were looking again? Oh my gosh.
Amaranth.
Yeah, Amaranth. That's what it was. Okay, yeah. So I did pull up the right one. I was just double checking. Okay. Yeah. So do you wanna explain this one to the good people at home?
A little bit of context that needs to be said here. So basically, Lax, who is like a top Smogon player, right? He's one of the best OUers right now, if not the best. He's been playing in SCL as a captain alongside Blunder, and their team didn't do so well, but the tournament is like a massive success within Smogon. Everyone loves the SCL. And he made this post about adding draft as a slot to SCL. As you know, he plays in draft as well. He's played in DGBA, he's played in a bunch of team tours, and he's done well in all of them. So we know he's a fan of draft. He thinks it's a competitive format. He made a huge post about all the good reasons why draft maybe could deserve a slot in something like the Smogon's SCL, which is an official trophy tournament. So if draft does make it into a slot there, that would be a big win for the community, right? It's a massive community within Smogon, right? The draft side, and there's not a whole lot of like tournament representation aside from those the ones run by Smogon Draft itself within their own circuit. But getting something more official, SCL is a great tournament. Adding a slot there, more legitimizes draft as well as introduces people. It's a nice thing in a team environment to be drafting. Then anyone can help with the prep. It's not just the draft players. So there's a lot of good reasons why draft could be considered for SCL. But Amaranth does not think so. And the funniest part about this post to me
I have it highlighted.
To me, this is not much different from proposing to add Pokemon Unite slots. It should be a complete non-starter.
What?
You heard that here, folks. We're basically playing Pokemon Unite. At least compared to OU.
Are we waffling?
What builder restrictions are they talking about?
It's just someone who doesn't play a lot of draft, I think. Amaranth was a captain in DCL 1, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Was it captain? No, I think they just played. But they played on a team run by Smogon players.
Okay.
It was the girl bosses, right?
Right.
So
did that team do well?
Not good. Okay. as predicted, right? But yeah.
No, I mean...
Yeah, no, I completely disagree with this. I think that while draft, yes, it is its own game mode, right? Like, we've definitely made strides to make it quite different than OU. I think it still shares enough similarity with the way that people play singles generally to...
The same general game concepts apply. Yeah, especially in the battle. Obviously, maybe not in the preparation phase. Very much so not the case. But, when it comes to general play... it is the same outside of, the counter team aspect and knowing that your opponent prepared specifically for you. So, the same general concepts of how to win Pokemon games, especially in singles, kind of applies. So.
Yeah. There are arguments that, maybe draft doesn't deserve a slot right now. Mostly the best argument I saw is that the SCL format as is great. There's no need to change what isn't broken.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
But if you were to add a few more slots to it, draft would definitely be considered as one of them.
Yeah, not an OM.
Yeah, or Pokemon Unite in the tournament, which is the funniest part. By far.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's definitely interesting. I think the Unite part is the funniest. I understand maybe like not wanting to change it. And again, I don't know much about the scene, but I do think that's a bit of a hyperbole from Amaranth here. But yeah, I mean that's what Waffle of the Week is for, right? We always have silly shit like this. But that is going to be the podcast this week. Aster, do you have any parting words before we tuck out for the night?
No, thank you for having me on, guys. I know I pestered you a little bit. I didn't want to come on, obviously, but I think it was well timed with everything happening with DCL and everything. So, yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys having me on. This is a great podcast. Keep it up. I hope you guys have some great guests lined up. And if you haven't subscribed yet to the 2HitKO podcast, definitely do so down below. And yeah, I hope I was able to answer everybody's questions, give some insight on how I think as a draft player. And yeah, once again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, everything Aster related will be all linked down in the description. Again, you can also just click on his name too. I'll kind of like tag him in the title. So you'll just click on his name, go check him out. There's a bunch of old DCL. I know you said you got burned out on, but I love the DCL or the DPL videos when you're doing them last season, as well as your NBC run now, your BBR run the season before. So lots of good content over there, and hopefully he keeps uploading. You'll be able to keep watching some Aster videos. Obviously, L5 will be down there. Go play the Turtonator game in the comments. L5, do you have anything other than go play the Turtonator game?
Just play the Turtonator game, man. It's so fun. We're going to do a stream about it. We're going to have like a Hall of Fame. Everyone who beats Turtonator gets like a Discord role special, and like it's going to be a whole fun thing.
That's awesome, man.
Like I said, the rules are gonna be linked in the description. L5 Discord server is gonna be linked down there, and I'm sure if you have like any major questions about the Turtonator game, I'm sure he'll be more than ecstatic to answer your questions in his server down there. But I'm curious to see too what you guys come up with, because I was stumped today. Yeah. So
I believe Amo is cooking something up.
Amo has sent me 3 sets while we've been recording. By the way, he sent me 3 sets while we've been recording.
Yeah. If you know Amo, you know he gets crazy.
he was ready to go. This was like, I think this just scratched that special part of his brain. He was like, oh shit, dude, I'm gonna spend the next 3 days doing this. Like, it's time to go. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you enjoyed, drop a like. If you're new, drop a sub. See you guys next time. Later.